Hello, so welcome back to the second part of the TM Academy number 1, which this part is focusing about how to drive a culture in your entities. So in the first part, I've described how TM is always associated with culture and driving a culture in our entities to help us to achieve our goals. But then most of the time, culture is perceived as something that is very fluffy and is not something that is very clear in terms of how can we actually utilize it better in order to help our entity to actually achieve our goal. But to me, culture is something that is really powerful. And when I was LCP, one of my biggest vision or actually strategies is actually build a performing and proactive LC culture to ensure that all of our membership are engaged and also hype up to help help Isaac Warwick to achieve our organizational goals. And this actually is very successful in helping our LCs to build a very sustainable organizations for the future years to come, because culture is something that can be very powerful, but more importantly can last for a long time regardless of how the people change. And so that's why I would also like to introduce to you how can you as VPTM can help contribute to driving a culture in your entities. So in here, we'll clarify what is an LC culture role in driving exchange and how can we drive a performing culture and drive a certain kind of behaviors that we want to see in our membership. So I'm not sure how many of you actually heard about this phrase, that organizational culture eats strategy for breakfast. So this quote is actually coming from a very famous people, and he actually suggests this idea that regardless of how successful your strategy is or how actually smart your strategy is, without a culture that is actually helping your organizations to enable these strategies to work, or having this culture to lay as a foundation to ensure that everybody in the organization is actually behaving in a certain ways, sharing a certain kind of values to drive a certain kind of organizational culture to enable those strategies to happen, it will never really be able to succeed. So, for example, if an organization, for example, Ryanair, they have a very awesome organizational strategy which is going to target to every single secondary and small airport hub to ensure that they reduce the cost that they need to rent a spot in the airports to park their aircraft. And this is a very smart strategy, but at the same time, they are utilizing the organizational culture, which is ensuring every employees are highly performing through a different paid wage systems to ensure every employees are actually work as efficient as possible, and ensure that everybody is striving for excellence and striving to have a very high turnover rate and provide the best sort of efficiency that they can in order for the organization to actually succeed, and also enabling that strategies to actually happen. So in Isaac, it's very similar, and it's actually applicable to every single organizations. And as you can see here, I think this is something that is very relevant to Isaac UK as well. We often have very, very good strategies. We have very good visions. We have very clear plans, or even directions of where do we want to go. We want to drive, for example, 100 exchange in your year. But then most of the time, strategies doesn't just work it out by themselves. We need our people to help us to actually implement these plans, and to fulfill these visions. And what do we need is actually capabilities of our people to have the skills, knowledge, and right attitude to actually drive these strategies, but more importantly, our organizational culture that is enabling and sustaining these strategies to actually help them to actually fulfill these strategies. But what is behind a culture is basically a set of organizational values that is shared among every employees, or in our case, every membership. So for us in Isaac, we have values like striving for excellence, demonstrating integrity, activating leaderships, different Isaac values that define what kind of behaviors is actually acceptable or promoting in this organization. So these values actually outlines what kind of behaviors is actually is actually desirable. And this has to be correlate with what kind of strategies do we want. So for example, if we want to develop leaderships in every single one of our memberships, so it makes sense to have an activating leadership values in our organization that actually outlines that we want we are desire and we want to actually go and develop our leadership, and we want to actually go out there and improve ourselves and become a leader, right? So these kind of culture have to go hand in hand with our strategies. And in every entities, you don't necessarily need to be like, it has to be aligned with IZAP values, but you can also set within your EB, within your entities, your own kind of culture. What do you want to see your membership to be like? For example, if you want to have, for example, 100 exchange in your entities, then what kind of behaviors you need to see in your membership in order for you to achieve 100 exchange? Is it something that is operational excellence? You need them to be very efficient and to be able to identify what is the bottleneck, and they will act upon it. And the culture that you are promoting is basically efficiency, innovative and analytical skills, and really thinking out of the box and see how you can get there. So I think it's for TM, is our role to actually define what kind of values that we want to share among our LCs, and really work very closely together with your LCPs and your fellow EBs to actually define what kind of values and behaviors we really want to see in our membership. And it is something that aligned everybody in our entities. So for example, for my personal story, is proactiveness. It's always proactiveness that I want to see in my membership when I was LCP, and I really want everybody to believe in what they do and take ownership about their job. So what do we do in LCMs or even in our R&R campaigns? Everything goes hand in hand together to promote this kind of proactiveness. For example, we'll give them an R&R campaign by pairing up marketing members with OGV members and give them one OGV cycle to run, and they compete against each of their colleagues to see how can they who can get the most approved in the OGV cycle that they're responsible for. So they are responsible from doing marketing stores to organizing an assessment centers, to chasing up customers to get payments, and they are responsible for organizing their teammates to actually help them to actually achieve their goals. So, but they're the one who design strategies, because we want to promote this kind of proactiveness and this kind of ownership in their job, that we want to empower them and design a certain kind of R&R systems, design certain kind of strategies to actually enable our membership to have a certain kind of behaviors in their role. So this is just one of the examples, but really, like, I challenge you to define what kind of values and behaviors you want to see in your entities, and then how can you link it with the strategies that you want to have in your entities, and what kind of capabilities your membership or your people actually needs in order for them to drive these strategies and have these kind of behaviors. And then TM is the role to ensuring that culture and capabilities actually uphold and is actually happening in your entities. But if you have any more questions, feel free to actually come and ask me. I'm very passionate about this area, and we'll also talk about it in NSC as well. So in that time, you will have more clarity in terms of what is your role as VPTM in actually making culture happen in your entities. Bye!